You've probably tried eating less, cutting bread, avoiding sugar, being more disciplined, starting over on Monday, telling yourself this time you were really going to do it right. And yet, somehow, the scale barely moved. Or worse, maybe the number moved a little, but your waistline didn't. The belly fat stayed, the bloating stayed, the frustration stayed. And if this has become even more true during menopause, you are not imagining it. Because one of the most painful things women experience in this phase of life is the feeling that their body suddenly stopped responding the way it used to. What worked before no longer works. Eating the same way leads to more weight gain. Sleeping badly seems to show up instantly in the face, the stomach, the cravings, the energy. You feel like you're putting in effort, but your body is playing by a completely different set of rules. And the truth is, it is. For years, women have been told a very simple story about weight loss. Eat less, move more, have more willpower, be more consistent. But menopause exposes how incomplete that story really is. Because after 40, during perimenopause, and especially through menopause, the female body becomes more sensitive to things that used to be easier to ignore. Hormonal shifts change how fat is stored. Sleep disruption changes hunger. Stress changes blood sugar. Muscle loss changes energy expenditure. And suddenly, weight gain, especially around the middle, starts to feel almost automatic. That is why this conversation has to be different. Because maybe the issue is not only what you are eating, maybe the issue is also when you are eating. That sounds simple, but it can completely change the way you understand your body. Your body is not just a calorie calculator. It is a biological timing system. Inside you, there are clocks. Your brain has a clock. Your liver has a clock. Your pancreas has a clock. Your gut has a clock. Even your fat cells behave according to timing signals. And when those clocks are aligned, your metabolism works better. Hunger is more stable. Energy is more reliable. Blood sugar is easier to control. Fat burning improves. Sleep improves. But when those clocks get disrupted, your body becomes more likely to store energy instead of using it. Hunger becomes more chaotic. Cravings increase, fatigue increases. Belly fat becomes easier to gain and harder to lose. This matters even more during menopause, because this is already a phase when many women are dealing with hot flashes, poor sleep, increased anxiety, a shorter fuse, low motivation, waking during the night, early morning awakenings, and stronger late evening hunger. And the modern lifestyle pushes women into exactly the pattern that makes all of this worse. Eating too little early in the day, running on stress and caffeine, then eating most of the day's calories at night, when the body is least prepared to handle them. That is one of the hidden reasons menopause weight gain feels so unfair. It is not just that your hormones changed. It is that your hormones changed in a world that encourages the exact rhythm your body now handles poorly. And that is the good news, too. Because if rhythm is part of the problem, rhythm can become part of the solution. What many women need in this phase is not a more extreme diet, not more punishment, not more food fear, not another cycle of restriction followed by frustration. What they need is a smarter metabolic strategy, one that works with the biology of menopause instead of fighting it. That starts with understanding that your body needs predictability. The body likes rhythm. It likes signals. It likes knowing when it is time to wake, when it is time to receive light, when it is time to eat, when it is time to produce energy, and when it is time to rest. When life becomes chaotic, different wake times, skipped meals, random snacking, heavy dinners, screens late at night, poor sleep, then starting all over exhausted the next day, your biology stops feeling safe. And a body that feels metabolically stressed becomes much more likely to hold on to weight. This is especially true around the abdomen. And that abdominal weight gain so many women notice during menopause is not only cosmetic. In many cases, it is tied to visceral fat, the deeper fat around the organs that is associated with insulin resistance, inflammation, cardiovascular risk, and worsening metabolic health. So when we talk about reducing belly fat in menopause, we are not talking about vanity. We are talking about helping the body become healthier, calmer, and more efficient again. For a long time, nutrition was presented like simple math. But your hormones are not math. Appetite is not math. Sleep is not math. Stress is not math. And menopause makes that impossible to ignore. Think about how many women live. They wake up already tired because they did not sleep well. They drink coffee and call that breakfast. They push through the morning. Lunch is rushed, light, or delayed. The afternoon is held together with caffeine, small snacks, or nothing at all. Then night comes. The responsibilities slow down. The emotions catch up. The hunger becomes louder. And finally, dinner feels like the first real pause of the day, the first real comfort, the first real reward. That pattern feels normal. But metabolically, it can be devastating. Because the body usually handles food better earlier in the day, during daylight hours, your system is more prepared for digestion, blood sugar control, and energy use. At night, your body naturally becomes less metabolically flexible. Insulin sensitivity tends to be lower. Large meals are more likely to sit heavily. Blood sugar control worsens. Fat storage becomes easier. Now combine that with menopause, poor sleep, elevated stress, and hormonal change, and you get the exact story so many women tell. I'm not even eating that much, but I keep gaining weight. I used to lose weight quickly and now nothing works. Everything goes straight to my stomach. I feel like my body changed overnight. If that sounds familiar, it makes sense. It is not a personal failure. It is biology asking for a new strategy. One of the most powerful changes you can make is to stop keeping your body underfed all day and overfed at night. Many women in menopause fall into this pattern without realizing how much it is hurting them. They eat very little in the morning, sometimes almost nothing. Lunch is too small or too rushed. The afternoon drifts into grazing, stress eating, or running on caffeine. Then the evening becomes the main event. Hunger is stronger. Cravings are stronger. Portions are larger. And dinner becomes the heaviest meal of the day. That pattern may feel understandable, but it sends your body in the wrong direction. A smarter approach is to make the first half of the day more nourishing, and the second half of the day lighter and calmer. This does not mean forcing a huge breakfast if you hate breakfast. And it does not mean never eating dinner. It means shifting away from the habit of treating nighttime as the place where all hunger, stress, pleasure, and calories collide. This is where so many women finally start to feel relief. Because once the body is fed more intelligently earlier in the day, the panic hunger at night often starts to calm down. The urge to overeat may not disappear overnight, but it usually becomes easier to manage because you are no longer arriving at the evening biologically depleted. And one of the most important pieces of that earlier nourishment is protein. Protein matters immensely during menopause. It supports satiety. It helps preserve muscle mass. It helps reduce the metabolic slowdown that can happen as women age. It creates more stability in energy and appetite. And yet many women eat very little protein in the morning and not enough overall during the day. Then they wonder why they are ravenous later, craving sugar, and feeling flat, foggy, or weak. Better protein distribution can make a real difference, not just for weight, but for body composition. Because the goal is not only to lose pounds. The goal is to reduce fat while protecting lean tissue, especially muscle. Fiber is also a major ally. Many women in menopause are not getting enough of it, and that shows up in satiety, digestion, blood sugar swings, and constipation. A simple food like ground flaxseed can be incredibly useful when used properly. The key word is ground. Whole flax often passes through with much less benefit. But when ground, it can support fullness, digestive regularity, and a more stable appetite. It is not a miracle. It is just one example of how strategic nutrition works better than aggressive restriction. The same is true for seasoning your food well. Women often try to eat healthy by making food bland, joyless, and unsatisfying. That usually does not last. But meals made with real ingredients, fiber, protein, and flavorful spices are easier to repeat. Spices like cumin and turmeric are not magic, but they can make meals more satisfying, more anti-inflammatory in character, and less dependent on ultra-processed foods. There are also smaller tools that can be helpful in context. For some people, vinegar before a carb-heavy meal may help soften the blood sugar response. But it has to be used with common sense, diluted, not taken straight, and never treated as the foundation of weight loss. It is a supporting tool, not the main strategy. The real strategy is rhythm, and rhythm starts with consistency. Your body benefits from eating at roughly similar times most days, not with obsessive perfection, but with enough regularity to create predictable signals. A body that gets breakfast at one time one day and skips it the next, that eats lunch at noon one day and 3 o'clock the next, that has dinner at 6 one night and 10:30 the next, is living in a kind of internal confusion. And confusion increases stress. For women in menopause, consistency can be profoundly stabilizing because the internal landscape is already changing. The more predictable you can make the external cues, light, meals, sleep, movement, the less chaos your body has to absorb. This is why light matters too. One of the most underestimated factors in menopause weight gain is circadian disruption caused by poor light exposure. Bright natural light in the morning tells your brain the day has started. It helps regulate alertness, cortisol timing, appetite, melatonin production later in the day, and overall metabolic rhythm. Low morning light combined with excessive evening light can push your body into a state of circadian confusion. And once sleep gets worse, hunger almost always gets worse too. A poor night of sleep does not only make you tired, it changes appetite hormones. It makes quick carbohydrates more appealing. It lowers self-control. It increases the emotional pull of food. It worsens insulin sensitivity. The next day, you are not just sleepy. You are metabolically more vulnerable. That is especially important in menopause, because many women are already sleeping poorly due to hot flashes, anxiety, night waking, or early waking. If you add screens late at night, too much bright light in the house, and almost no natural light in the morning, the system gets even more dysregulated. This is why the simplest habits can become surprisingly powerful. Getting outside early, opening the curtains, taking a morning walk, exposing your eyes to natural daylight, dimming the lights in the evening, reducing bright screens at night, creating a darker sleep environment, and signaling to the brain that night is actually night. It sounds basic. But once you understand biology, basic stops being basic. It becomes strategic. And that same principle applies to late-night hunger. Many women think their night eating is purely about lack of discipline, but very often it is accumulated dysregulation. It is the result of an underfed morning, an unstable afternoon, poor protein intake, emotional fatigue, sleep debt, stress, and habit. By the time evening arrives, the body is asking for relief, not because you are weak, but because the whole day set you up for vulnerability. That means solving night hunger starts much earlier than night. It starts with asking better questions. Did I eat enough protein earlier? Did I eat enough actual food? Or did I run on coffee and stress? Was lunch too light? Am I using food at night to regulate exhaustion? Did this become a ritual tied to the couch, the television, the end of caregiving, the end of work, the end of holding everything together? Not every evening craving is a true need for more calories. Sometimes it is the body asking for structure. Sometimes it is the nervous system asking for comfort. Sometimes it is habit. Sometimes it is sleep debt. Often it is a mix of all of them. This is where menopause weight loss becomes more compassionate and more effective at the same time. Because instead of attacking symptoms, you start fixing patterns. You stop asking, "Why am I so bad at this?" and start asking, "What is my body trying to tell me?" That change in mindset matters enormously because many women reach menopause carrying decades of body frustration, decades of dieting, decades of criticism, decades of being told to shrink, fix, discipline, improve. So when the body changes again in midlife, it can feel deeply personal, like betrayal, like failure, like loss of control. But it is not failure. Your body is changing in measurable, real, physiological ways. Estrogen shifts affect fat distribution. Sleep disruption affects appetite and insulin sensitivity. Lower muscle mass affects energy use. Stress hits harder. Recovery becomes slower. That means the answer is not more shame. The answer is more strategy. Instead of cutting more and more food, you become smarter about timing. Instead of blaming yourself for night cravings, you improve what happens earlier in the day. Instead of relying on extremes, you build consistency. Instead of obsessing only over the number on the scale, you start looking for other signs that the body is becoming more stable. Less bloating, more predictable hunger, better bowel movements, better sleep, less late-night chaos, a flatter waistline, more morning energy. Often those signs show up before dramatic weight loss does. And that matters because it means your biology is becoming less inflamed, less confused, and more cooperative. If I had to reduce this whole approach to one idea, it would be this. During menopause, weight loss is not only about eating less. It is about helping your body become more synchronized. Synchronize light, synchronize sleep, synchronize meals, synchronize appetite, synchronize the body's signals for action and rest. The more coherent the system becomes, the less likely your body is to defend itself by storing energy. So what does that look like in real life? It looks like giving your body more of a clear start to the day. It looks like not relying on coffee as a replacement for nourishment. It looks like including protein earlier. It looks like making lunch substantial enough that dinner does not become a rescue mission. It looks like eating dinner a bit earlier when possible, and making it lighter than the meals that come before it. It looks like reducing bright light at night and increasing natural light in the morning. It looks like building a rhythm that your hormones can actually work with. That is the difference between constantly fighting your body and finally supporting it. And that is the shift so many women need to hear. Your body is not broken. It is not betraying you. It is not punishing you. It is asking for a different set of instructions. The rules changed. That is all. And once you understand that, the process becomes less cruel. You stop seeing every symptom as proof that you failed. You stop responding with harsher dieting. You stop expecting your 52-year-old body to respond like your 28-year-old body. And instead, you begin building an approach that respects the woman you are now, the hormones you have now, the sleep challenges you have now, and the metabolic reality you are living now. That is where sustainable progress begins. Not with punishment, not with fear, not with starvation, but with rhythm, strategy, nourishment, and biological respect. Because menopause weight loss is possible. Reducing belly fat is possible. Feeling lighter, steadier, and more at home in your body again is possible. But it usually does not happen by becoming more extreme. It happens by becoming more aligned. And maybe that is the most freeing part of all. You do not need to wage war against your body. You need to learn how to work with it.